Hello, I'm Mike Burnell with this final edition of Infocus. This show is brought to you every month by the third-year broadcasting students here at Conestoga College. Infocus gives us an opportunity to be a part of the creative process and bring a show from its early stages right on through to your television set. And we'd like to take this opportunity to show you what goes on behind the scenes here at Conestoga College in the broadcasting program. In the next half hour, you'll meet some new students just entering the course, some who are about halfway through, and some third-year students about to embark upon the real world. With us now is Paul Scott, program coordinator and local radio personality, to explain the essence of what goes on in the broadcasting program.
We are a three-year program, and it's a combination of radio and television, which is becoming unique in Ontario. Many programs have become either one or the other, but we are a three-year program. The first 2 years a combination of radio and television, and the third year of our three-year program allows the student to specialize in either radio or TV. After the first 2 years, hopefully he or she has had an opportunity to discover where it is they want to concentrate their efforts. First and second year, again, a blend of both radio and TV. In the first year, the student is introduced to all of the various operational components of both radio and TV. The first semester concentrates on radio. The second winter semester concentrates on TV. So we would emphasize, for example, some introductory fundamental announcing skills, performance skills, but also operational skills. How does an audio console operate, for example? Lighting a TV set. How does a camera operate? What are some of the things you have to keep in mind when you're working as a team with each other? So we concentrate in the first year on all of those areas. And then in the second year, it's a much a heavier workload, accelerating the development of all those skills that, in fact, were introduced on a fundamental basis earlier. So it really is a good blend of both radio and TV. Second year also introduces a mobile component, which is somewhat unique to the college system here in Ontario as well, and we ask and require students to participate in a mobile shooting the Santa Claus parade, for example, or Thanksgiving Day parade, both here in Kitchener and also in Toronto. Students may want to do a hockey game as well.
Mike Farwell is a first-year student in the broadcasting program. We asked him about some of his experiences in first year.
So first year in broadcasting. Well, in the first year so far, I've learned an awful lot. I've been surprised an awful lot. I, of course, had my preconceived notions coming into the program about what things were going to be like and how things were going to be run and what I was going to be doing. And I was wrong on just about all counts. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I just, learning what goes on behind the scenes of some radio and some television, which we've studied thus far, is quite surprising and rewarding at the same time. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been very pleasantly surprising. Specifically, what I've learned is to expect the unexpected. That everything you dreamed how glamorous the broadcasting industry would be, it's not. I mean, there are glamorous positions, and you know, hopefully someday some of us can end up in them, but there's a lot that goes on. Primarily what I've learned is what goes on behind the scenes to bring the final product to the airwaves, be it TV or radio. So coming here, it's a heck of a lot of fun, and at the same time you get to learn along the way. So I'm looking very forward to second and third year and beyond with what I'm learning here.
We also spoke with Gabriella Curry, a second-year student in the program. Here's Gabriella's comparison of first and second year.
How do I find second year as opposed to first year? In some ways, it's harder, and in some ways, it's easier. I know what to expect. A lot of the courses are continuations of things that we started last year, and I like that. By the same token, I know how much work I put into last year, and I remember I spent the summer recovering, and then as September approached, I had this moment of panic thinking, how am I going to get through it? Where am I going to find the strength to get through it? Because obviously, there's so much more to my life than just being here at school. Why broadcasting? That's a good question. I guess because there are stories out there that need to be told. And I would like to think that I'm the person that needs to tell them. That humanity is something that touches me. It's something that I care about. I care about people. I like people. And I want to take their stories and tell them. I want that control. I want to produce it. I want to write it. I want to speak it. I want to do it all. And I knew that I couldn't do that with just a desire to do that. What I needed was some sort of training. And so I came here. The future of broadcasting itself is opening wide up. With the introduction of new technologies and HDTV and specialized narrowcasting, I think there are going to be a great deal of job opportunities.
Julie Armour tells why she specialized in television.
In first and second year, you get exposed to the basic fundamentals of both radio and television. And in third year, you have the option to decide what field you want to specialize in. It just so happened that 50% of our class went radio, 50% went television, and I'm one of the ones that went into TV. The reason I went into television was I felt for myself there was more room for advancement, and there's more technology to be learned to and more to expose and more of a future in television. And you could always fall back on radio. Anything that you've learned, you could always adapt again back into the field of radio. So for me, I decided TV was the way to go. In third year, you get the opportunity to go out on a work term and get out and get some exposure into the broadcast industry. I went to Global Television. It was one of the most exciting and interesting and educating experiences I've ever had. I'd say everybody who can get out and get into the industry prior to, because as a student they'll accept you easier than they would as you just going out and trying to break into the industry. Getting that exposure and experience helped me decide, as opposed to just going into specializing in television, what kind of area within television I wanted to go in. And without that experience, I think I might have been lost when I do graduate. I only have Conestoga College to compare to. I'm not sure what the other programs are like, but what I've got out of Conestoga, I think has prepared me. I don't view television the same. I used to be a viewer, now I'm a critique. I critique television. I don't sit and watch it. I kind of take it all apart and examine it. And I have now an eye to see things that I wouldn't have seen before without taking this program. And also, working in a team and being with these people and interacting with different personalities and having to get along and has helped to prepare me, I think, to move on into the industry, because you do have to work as a team. You're not an individual. And I think Conestoga College has prepared me for that.
Now we'd like to show you what the third-year broadcasting students do here at Conestoga College.
Was there anything not brought up last week that should have been brought up last week?
A lot goes into the production of a radio program. Weekly meetings, such as this one, are the initial stages for every show.
Our logger, again, was shredded today, and it was forgot to be shut off yesterday. That's all I want to say.
Well, that's second years, though.
Who's supposed to do it? Who turned it on? I want to know. Yeah, that's it. Whoever turned it on is the person who should have turned it on.
Yeah, but if Jody's done his shift, then should
The
last person on air.
Yeah, me. I've never done it.
Like Mark looks after it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sandy looks after it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And she used to do it Monday, but since you and Jody are on, or you and Jack are on air Monday, whoever's on last, whether it's yourself or Jack.
Okay, well, somebody's
All
got
you have to do is press stop and be here during
Everything
lab days
from
for at
schedules
least-
to
at least
technical
2 hours
problems
every day.
to ideas for
Maybe we
future
could
shows
have
are
some kind of-
discussed.
not an auction, but just like a garage sale type.
These meetings are essential to put together a well-formatted program.
Last turnout, they canceled it. So how many remotes have you guys done? We do, yeah.
No, we do one every week, every Friday usually, from 10:30 till 12:30. But we decided to do one today just because it's St. Patrick's Day. You know, we wanted to have a theme going, I suppose.
Who's in charge of putting things like this together?
Well,
I think it's pretty much a group decision. We have a meeting on Tuesday of every week where we sort of delegate authority, and I guess Dom is sort of the spearhead of most of our remotes.
How long does it take you on average to set up for this kind of remote?
Well, it takes about 2 days to decide on what we're going to do, like meetings and whatnot. And it takes I have to be down here about half an hour before the remote actually starts. And I set up all the equipment, and our technician, Bob Curry, checks it out, see that it's okay. Plug everything in. We're on the air by 10:30. So I usually come in about 8:30, do whatever I have to do, and we're on the air by 10:30.
So come on up to our broadcast location here in the cafeteria, or if you're in the lounge, come down and visit us. It's not that far away. Exactly, and tell us where the leprechaun hides his pot of gold. And you've got yourself a $10 gift certificate from O'Toole's and 2 mini golf passes.
A lot of planning is involved in getting an idea off the ground and onto the airwaves. Television meetings like this one are necessary in the development of a well-produced program. In order to make a production work, a great deal of effort is required by all members of the production team. The final product is something that everyone involved can be proud of.
How long is this collage to be?
Why did it all go? 2, 1, fade black.
Cameras are ready.
Cameras in 2, 1.
Cameras up. Music. Zoom in. Camera 2 now. Kill the music. Zoom in. Cut to camera 2.
Yeah, that looks good.
How's the color coming through?
From pre-production to post-production, everyone's efforts are concentrated on meeting the deadline with the finished product. Matt Ferguson explains the processes involved.
Back in September, we found out there'd be 6 television shows that we're producing this year, and there was a producer assigned for each show. The topic of each show was basically left up to the producer. Whatever they decided was what went. We'd have weekly meetings, and the producer would come and discuss what he wanted done or what she wanted done that week, or how far we'd advanced since the last week. The producer would also divide us into groups and send us out here and there and everywhere else to gather the information, and we'd bring that back to the school here where we'd produce the final edit and pull all the segments together to make the final show.
Hi, I'm Julie Armour, and you're watching Infocus. This is a brand new show that we at Conestoga College are proud to present to you. We're bringing entertainment and information on the Tri-City areas.
Hi, and welcome to our 4th edition of Infocus. I'm Sarah Kong, your host.
Hello, I'm Mike Burnell with this final edition of In Focus. Dan Bailey, a former student of the program here at Conestoga College, tells why he decided to get into broadcasting.
Well, back in the late 70s, actually, if you can remember those days. Actually, I wanted to get into radio. I applied, I'm originally from TO, Tillsonburg, Ontario, and decided at that time I wanted to get into radio. Actually, if you checked out what I said in my grade 7 yearbook, you'd find out that I wanted to be a radio DJ. It was first profession choice. And at that time, I was working at the local radio station, and they said, you know, basically if you want to progress, you should go to college. And I applied here and at Fanshawe, and ended up getting accepted at both schools, but decided to come here and take that 3rd year and take television and sort of broaden my horizons. My first job out of school was working for a local cable company and producing a couple of news shows a week. And at that time, I was hooked up with 3 other friends of mine, actually. One was going to Sheridan taking animation, and the other 2 were taking broadcasting at Ryerson. They had gotten this government grant to do a television show, and as it turned out, none of them knew how to shoot. So I sort of got designated as the ENG man, and just fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since. And a lot of people will tell you that they think they know television, and basically their only background is being a viewer. And I mean, once I got into the broadcasting course, I never looked at television the same way. You know, the mystique was gone. And I think for the most part as well, even people in the field, the mystique is gone, because now, you know, Joe Schmengi, who lives, you know, out in Elora, is video literate, and he knows, you know, the difference between a tilt and a pan, and you know, shooting within that 3:4 aspect ratio. And for the most part, television isn't as exciting as it used to be, because people used to say, you know, oh, TV, you know, they used to respect you and say, hey, we'll do anything for you. But now it's, you know, like, oh yeah, okay, well, come on over here, and like, don't shoot past this line, and you know, so it's changed big time.
Tracy Wilcox, a former graduate of the broadcast program, explains how she got interested in broadcasting.
Well, I've been around it most of my life. As you know, probably, my father's in the business, and I remember being 5 years old, going into work with him, and I was just fascinated by what went on in the studio, how you could take an idea and, you know, with the lights and cameras and that sort of thing, make an idea into something you could share with everybody. And that went from everything from the romper rooms to the treehouse, all those sorts of shows. I was just fascinated by the transformation of one thing, where it started to where it ended up. And ever since then, I used to beg them to come in to work with them. Christmas parties there were always held in the studios. So again, it was in the lights, and they'd make a production out of it. I just have always been fascinated with it. So once I was done high school, I decided that was the career path I wanted to pursue, and here I am.
Jeff Hutchison is sports director at CKCO and is also a graduate of the broadcasting program here at Conestoga College. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Good, no problem.
What made you decide to get into broadcasting in the first place?
I think it goes back to growing up with radio. I mean, I think that's what it was. When I first got into the broadcasting program here, my entire goal in life was to be a radio disc jockey. I bought all the records I listened to back in the early 70s and late 60s. I listened to the big stations out of Chicago and New York, lying in bed, and I thought my life was going to be a radio disc jockey. And even when I started here, that's what I thought I was going to end up doing.
So why sports then?
Well, you know, as life happens, there are just different turns and foibles along the way, and what happened was in my first year, and I'm sure people have heard of a guy by the name of Mark Hebscher, who was global now and was a contemporary of mine here at the school. And Mark was working at CKCO, kind of helping to write in the sports department. And I was in my first year, and he was going away for a couple weeks vacation and asked me if I'd fill in. And I went down and saw them, and that was essentially in 1977, I guess, and I've just never left the department since then. I was able to, I had the good fortune of being a good news reporter with CFRB in 1976, which was a very good program in my first year here. And when I came back in 1977 in September, this is when I kind of fell into the job there, and so I did that full-time for a year, and then in the summer of 77, I got offered a full-time job in sports, and I had read a little news too. And I went to school third year full-time and worked full-time until I got early graduation. So I just kind of got into that sports thing and gradually worked from there. I never started life out wanting to be, you know, a sportscaster per se.
Wow. Do you think your time here has helped to prepare you for what's out there?
Oh, definitely. I think that, you know, I wouldn't be having done a lot of the stuff I've done without my time here. You know, even then, and more so now, nobody just kind of walked off the street and said, you know, I'm ready to go. That may have been the situation. It may still be the situation in some smaller stations, you know, and what are, I guess, fondly called training stations. And, you know, the people who are training stations know who they are. But, no, when I was here, and you know, I had a great time here. I mean, just my whole life when I was here was a lot of fun. The people I went with were great. A lot of the people I went to school with here still work at CKCO or other places where I, you know, bump into them sort of regularly. This course was sort of not still in its infancy, but it was still growing. So, and I think we were part of that growing, you know, of the program. You know, as I sit here in the studio, you know, it's almost eerie how much it's so much the same, yet it was so new, you know, to people coming in at the time. So, and also, I mean, it was the main conduit for job finding. So, you know, based on what you learned here and based on the connections you could make out of here.
3 to 5 years.
Carol Ann Whalen is another successful graduate of the broadcasting program.
I kind of came into the course fairly open-minded. I wanted to get into television, and even prior to coming into the course, I figured I want to get some kind of background, make sure that this is what I really want to get in. And so I lived in Scarborough, so I worked at Scarborough Cable Television, and I was a volunteer, and I worked there for 2 years, fairly regular basis, and got my fingers into quite a few things on hands-on. And so from there, when I came into school, I kept my fairly open-minded because I didn't really know where the job market was going to leave me. But as I start to hone my talents, I knew that producer was probably my calling because I get to do everything, and I can, do camera and I can do sound, and therefore I think that this course was so valuable because it was radio and television. Even though I wasn't leaning towards radio, the things that I learned in radio, that I picked up in radio, I could apply to my career now. I feel that if you're not multitasking now, that you're limiting your job market. If you're just an editor, there's just not jobs out there. Now, if you're an editor and a salesman and a receptionist and you can cook, that you're very valuable. But you have to be multitasking, and you have to realize that the money is tight out there, and the more things that you can do, and therefore, you have to be computer literate. You have to know how to handle a computer or not be too shy around one, and you have to know like color balancing a camera and that kind of thing. So it's a wide range of things, and it's a constant challenge to always keep upgrading your training because technology is moving so fast that you got to be in pace with it because you'll just get left behind. I feel that the stuff that I learned at Conestoga constantly, I use those talents every day. Some of those things you wouldn't, working as a team, becoming, very diplomatic with your team members, or knowing exactly what you want, being able to communicate that to others, or more importantly, finding out what your client wants or what your boss wants to figure out what he wants so that you can communicate that for him. All those talents I learned here.
We asked each of our guests for any words of advice.
Experience. You say, how do you get experience? I mean, you have to be, depending on what your focus is for your career goals. If you're going to plan to be a shooter, then you got to just keep shooting, whether it be with college equipment, your own handycam at home, or with the local cable station. I mean, if you want to get into television broadcasting, I would definitely volunteer all my time at the cable station, because the more experience you gain there, the easier it is, going into a real job without that experience.
Not to give up would be my first piece of advice. It's very frustrating and discouraging when you're sending out 20, 25 resumes and all you're getting are these letters back saying, sorry, sorry, sorry. I've got a file folder full of them at home, and it took a while to actually get out there, but the more you do it, the more your name gets around. I'd make contacts while you're in school, while you, say, have a project to do a documentary or something. Go out and pursue people, and or people in the industry, and talk to them. How do you go about doing this? And get advice from them while you can.
The job market now is such that it's not always that easy to find work, and not only in broadcasting, in a lot of fields, people are finishing their schooling and not being able to get into what they're in. But my bottom line is I think that this is the place where you have to start. As I said before, you've got to have this type of background, and then let your talent and skill take you away. There are jobs out there for people and for good people, and this is a good start.
I think that if you go out into the job market as a multitask, talented employee, if you go out there with that in mind, that you might be great at graphics, computer graphics, which is fabulous and very in demand in our business. It's just not enough. That's limiting your prospects. If you can go out there and you say that I can be a great salesman, I'm fabulous on the computers, I can pick up any kind of software, so I can do basic accounting, or I can do sound, I can do lighting, I can carry equipment, I can drive, those kind of things that make you valuable to your employer. If you can go out there and say, I am multitasking, I am constantly learning, and I can benefit your company in all these ways, so therefore that your employer can turn his back and you can run with the ball if necessary, and that would be very valuable.
Be determined. Perseverance does pay off, This industry, as much as any other industry, has really had a tough time during the past 3 or 4 year recessionary period. The jobs are out there for good, motivated, high-quality people. I was talking with Bob Lane from Chum Limited in Toronto a year ago, and Chum's whole philosophy is that they will hire quality people and people who bring a very positive attitude. So attitude, in my estimation, not only for the Chum organization, but for many, many organizations, still speaks very highly toward an individual's ability to get a job. So be determined, persevere in what you want to do, and don't give up. Just don't give up. And things will happen as they should.
Now that you've had an inside look at the broadcasting program, perhaps you'll feel as nostalgic as the students about to leave their beloved school. That's it for this final edition of In Focus. We're the graduating class of '94. Wish us luck. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Burnell. Goodbye.
I got this perfect every time in first year. Shows you what 3 years experience Conestoga can do for you.
It's New York roots while offering themes that candidates can relate to. The candidates? Look. You get up here while I'm going to stick in your mouth.
Yes, Scott.
Wish us luck. We're the graduating... How are you doing? What the hell am I supposed to say? Program. You will meet...
That was so good.